Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee. Come explore our world of coffee. Established in 2014, DeLuna Coffee is owned and operated by Ed, Courtney, and Brett Lemmix. Lifelong FSU fans and Seminole boosters. Ed, class of 79, and son Brett, class of 2009, along with Miss Courtney, can regularly be found tailgating near the Unconquered statue. Wake up with their breakfast blend called Five Flags, named after the five flags of their city, Pensacola. Higher caffeine because of the light roast. It is their unique blend of Mexican, Colombian, and Ethiopian Yirgacheffe beans. Use the promo code WARCHANT15 for a 15% discount. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com and check out their Facebook and Instagram.
From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up, wake up. Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee.
Coffee's for closers only.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hujavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up? It is Wake Up Warchant. It is fueled by DeLuna Coffee, DeLunaCoffee.com, promo code Warchant15. Use it and save 15% off your order at DeLunaCoffee.com. Hit the thumbs up button if you're listening to us on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's in the lower right corner of the screen. It says subscribe. Just tap, click, hit the bell, all that kind of good stuff. Maybe leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast. Maybe even a review to go along with it. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Corey Clark, lead senior writer for the website, joins us now from his palatial estate in northern Atlanta. Although not really. I mean, you're in a completely city in of itself. Whole different city. Whole different county. But you're here, though, and that's all that matters, that you are here. How are you, Corey?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you doing?
Great, man.
Living life?
Yeah, we got, it's real quick. I had a kitchen backsplash project going on, and I had to fire the contractor because it was just so atrociously bad and crooked and horrible. Maybe I'll tweet out the photo if anybody asks me if they want to see it. It's just like, I can't have good things, Corey. But then I'm like, I do this podcast with you. I work for Warchant, so I do have good things.
You've still struck lucky in your life to get to do this. But yeah, it sounds like that. Your whole home renovation thing, man. That's why I don't even bother. Yeah, it just seems like a nightmare almost.
It is. Just buy a house, kids. It's ready. Everything's ready that you want. Turnkey is what they call it in the biz. Do that. What you guys talk about on headlines yesterday, huh? What'd you talk about, bud?
The Miami win. Yeah. Mainly. Jordan Travis, a lot of Jermaine Johnson talk. Making fun of Miami fans. All that kind of stuff.
Okay, cool. We've got the Renegade Express going down today. We've got 21 replies, questions, 22. Probably not going to get to them all, but, you got to be quick on the trigger, y'all, and we'll read your questions. Although I almost feel like we should do it by seniority, like based on how many times you've posted, we should go to your question first, but that would involve math, and I'm not good with math, so I'm just going to read the first one up here. It's from Warpath Knoll. Wake up! Has there ever been a season where the narrative has flipped so drastically so many times? First, most people predicted 5-7, 6-6 type of a year. Then they've got that narrow loss in Notre Dame in overtime, and people flipped it, thought 7, 8, maybe even more was possible. Then it went to not winning one game, or maybe another game besides UMass after the Jackson State loss. Now people are talking about maybe winning out. It's been insane how many times it has flipped. That is very accurate. I can't think of such a roller coaster of expectations.
And I hate being reactionary, especially with a basketball team, which we'll get into that I guess in a few months. But even in football, it's just unhealthy to be so reactionary week to week and think every game is a referendum on the direction of the program. But in this instance with this season, it's been hard not to do that. What are you supposed to think after the Jacksonville State loss?
Right.
And backing up the Jacksonville State loss with a blowout loss at Wake Forest where you turn it over 6 times, and then the next game you get down 31-7 in the first half. I'm telling you, when it was 31-7, I'm like, they're going to win one game this year, and who knows what's going to happen? Who knows what's on the table if they go 1-11 and continue to look like this? Because they were losing 31-7 at half. And then since the halftime of that Louisville game, it's been a different team. But even then, there's been the shifts, right?
Yeah.
From like, they did okay against Syracuse, got the win. Corey got to dump champagne on himself. Oh, they just beat North Carolina pretty convincingly on the road.
Beat the tar out of them.
Yeah, that's right. They were just the heels after that. And then you go to Clemson and you're like, and then that it starts to shift again. Like, okay, can the offense do anything? And then and not only within the team, within the state. Yes. Like, think about what we thought of Dan Mullen in Florida when they lost to Alabama by 2 points. Exactly. Oh, golly, man, this guy can really coach, and this dude is going to be a problem for a long time. And, now Miami's found the best quarterback in program history. Great. Like, all of these, so they've shifted back and forth, too, so many times. It's been really odd within the state, but I don't think anybody can argue this, and this isn't a homer point of view. There's no program in the state, out of the big three anyway, really all of them, I would guess, that has more stability right now than Florida State, and Florida State's got the worst record. But that's where you are. Like, Florida State is absolutely the most stable program of the big three. Like, Florida just had to fire coaches, and who knows what's going on with that guy. Miami just fired their AD, and who knows what's going on with Manny. And then you got Florida State just kind of chugging along, you slowly up that mountain, but on stable ground.
Yeah, I think it's when you're not competing for a national championship and then you fall out of your division race, there's not a lot of sort of hallmarks out there for you to achieve. So every week does become this, all right, we're going to figure something new out about this team. And
right,
and you haven't been reaction. You've been somewhat similar, I guess, to the way I was with Willie at first, where it was, all right, man, this record's really bad. At this point, I just want to see enough stuff over the course of like the next 5 or 6 games when it was 2018 to give me some hope that, once you flush this and get some new assistants in here, you'll be good. Again, that's why I felt so good about not so good, but relatively speaking, felt pretty decent after the 2018 loss to Miami, because it just, they were a double-digit underdog, and you're like, they've got no hope. They're going to get completely embarrassed down there, and sure enough, they had the lead for like 80% of that football game, and you're like, all right, this guy, he's got some stuff. The trick play call was really great, and you're like, all right, this is good. But yeah, when you think you're going to be 6-6 and you're staring at 0-4, and it's this program, yeah, your feelings fluctuate week to week, but we stabilized a little bit here. We stabilized a little bit, so it's not all that bad.
And look, man, I think I said this on the show, and I know we got to get to more questions. A month ago, like the only goal after you start 0-4 in a season is to save as much as you can of the recruiting class, to salvage it. And I tend to think, man, no matter what happens the rest of the way, that's probably been done for the most part. And so that through that prism, this season has already accomplished what it could after such a horrible start. That doesn't excuse the horrible start, especially Game 2. It just doesn't excuse it. Game 2 and the first half of Game 4. But I'm telling you, man, when they're down 31-7 to Louisville, I'm like, what am I watching? Ira said that he thought about getting into another career, and he wasn't 100% joking. Like, it is no fun to cover a team that might go 1-11 and is getting, again, for the second year in a row, appears to be getting beaten down every week because they had just lost by 21 to Wake Forest, and now they're down 24 to an average Louisville team. And you're like, this is awful. This team is awful. This coaching staff can't get through. Something's going on. There's a disconnect. And then, they fought back, made that a game, and then have won 4 of the last 6. And again, those 2 losses were close losses with some obstacles in front of them. So I think they've proven over these last 6 weeks that they know what they're doing. They have started to lay a foundation here, and the sell job that they've been doing to the recruits. Don't you think for the most part those recruits have been like, okay, yeah, I see it.
Yeah,
I absolutely see it.
Absolutely. Although I disagree, I don't know. I want to do a podcast, just like a one-day a week during football season, where it's nothing but coaching, like hot seat talk. That's all I want to do. I think I think it's fun covering a team in disarray, because then you're like, oh, they're going to fire the guy who's out there. Who can we get?
It's so much. I'm tired of it. Like, it's so much more fun. Trust me, I've been on both ends of it. It's so much more fun to talk about a team that's winning games.
Oh, yeah. If you can't be – I want to be Alabama. But if you can't be Alabama, I don't mind being Auburn, and just like, all right, are we going to fire this guy after this game? But alas, stabilization has washed over the program. FSU Kenny. Miami was a rivalry game. Miami is also player for player better than Boston College. My belief is that we should win at Boston College, but I am concerned about getting focused for BC. Do you guys worry about a letdown? We used to call these things trap games. Yes, Florida, can it be a trap game? I'm worried about this game. I am.
But I'm not. I don't think I'm worried about it from the perspective of where's their mind going to be. I think I'm just worried about it because Boston College is pretty good. They're favored. They're at home. Who knows what the weather will be? And they got their quarterback back. I don't know when you're 4-6 you can have a trap game. Yeah. Because what's the trap? Where's the trap door? It's like Steph Curry is just ridiculous. It's not fair. What are you supposed to do? Anyway, sorry, kind of a little transparency. I might be watching a Warriors game on Tuesday night. I mean, like trap games usually to me mean you just had a huge win. You're in control of whatever championship race you're going, and you got to be careful here with this one. It's not like Florida State. Don't overlook this team because they can get you. But Florida State is in no position to overlook anyone. Literally anyone. We've seen that all season. So, look, it was a very physical game. And, it's impossible to get up at that same fever pitch for Boston College on the road at noon as you did for a game against your rival in front of 70,000 people. So, hopefully they're good enough to kind of fight through it and win a close game late. But don't you feel like if they're going to win, it's going to be a close game late. They're going to have to make some plays that matter in the final moments of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I used to do my it's either going to be this or that, and it won't be anything in the middle, and I'm always wrong when it comes to those. Like I was going to say, I think either Florida State boat races Boston College or they lose it close. Like I don't see Florida State winning the game close.
That would be crazy to boat race.
I would say boat race, but just, they're in control.
Like North Carolina?
Yeah, something like that. 2 scores, fourth quarter, you're kind of in control. Again, I think Florida State, that name still carries weight. I think that coaching staff in Boston College, those guys, Jeff Hafley, they're always looking to add feathers in their cap. They know what it means if you can beat Florida State. I think it's a good matchup, not so much for betting purposes or meaning that Florida State's going to get a win, but I like this game after Miami to kind of see what this team is made out of. But again,
it's just,
look, man, what they did last week, though. Yeah, I'm not going to pull that away.
The schedule makers did them no favors. With Miami at Boston College at Florida. So your two biggest rivals, and in the middle is that team that always plays you tough. It is really physical, and nobody likes playing. That's a tough 3-game set to close out, and we knew that going into the season. We didn't know Wake was going to be this. We didn't really know Notre Dame was going to be this. But you didn't know Clemson was going to be what Clemson is. But even Clemson, no matter what you want to say about Clemson, and we can say they're not good, and they're not. They're certainly not normal Clemson. They're 7-3, and that's a physical game. So they close out their season with at Clemson, which is the most physical game of the year against the best defense you faced. North Carolina State, good team, flew. where you going through some things. Then Miami at BC at Florida. Man, that is a tough 5-game stretch. That's a tough 5-game stretch. That's why they screwed up a little bit there at the beginning. But even, what was the big screw up, you think, other than Jacksonville State? Is there another one? Like the Louisville game, the first half of Louisville maybe?
But if we're going to pin this season turning around or the future being bright because of Jordan Travis, you didn't have him in that game. So
right, that's kind of right?
I don't know if they mismanaged. That's the thing too.
And they didn't start him against Wake. They brought him in, and he led them to 2 touchdown drives. But McKenzie also played even before Jordan got hurt. But yeah, that was a bummer.
Yeah. You can say they mismanage. Again, I didn't like the 4th down call against Notre Dame. Were they on the 38 or something like that?
They're on their side of the field. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I didn't like that. Obviously, the Jacksonville State game. Jordan Travis was healthy enough to go in there and play, Kentucky Derby quarterback. you probably could have put him there in the fourth quarter if you wanted to. But again, I mean, I don't know. No one gets a pass for Jacksonville State, but that game was won. I still don't understand how they lost that game, and they'll never understand how they lost that game. Otherwise, it really hasn't been, I don't know, all that much overwhelming bad mismanagement. Yeah, there's stuff 50-50 where, we can sit here and be like, he shouldn't have done that, but and I hate to get involved in those things.
No, I meant more like what was the opportunity that they really blew?
Yeah.
It's just Jacksonville State. Like everything else was like we talked about.
Well, Clemson,
we talked about before the season. Maybe, but
yeah.
I mean, Clemson's better than you talent wise, and their DC's really good. But we talked about the season about the coin tosses. And It just turned out that so many of these games, really the only game so far that hasn't, in my opinion, just felt like a coin toss was Wake.
Yeah.
That was just Wake kind of dominated, and it felt like Wake could have scored more, and they kind of throttled down there in the second half. Other than that, all these games have come down to the fourth quarter. So hopefully these last two come down to the fourth quarter, and you win both of them to even it out.
Yeah. Bradley Moss, 22. Wake up. Aslan picking on a college kid who he thought was a Miami fan. Finally beating the Canes after 4 years of suffering, and Corey rocking the war chant do-rag in celebration. Oh, what a feeling.
Right.
By the way, that's a gator, one of those things that, you fishermen use, but, during the pandemic, everybody started wearing them around their neck, like the turtleneck that pulls up over your mouth. It wasn't a do-rag.
Like a mask, like a pseudo mask.
Yes.
But it's not spelled gator. I didn't realize this. I don't think it's spelled Gator.
It's not. It's like the gait of a horse, like your trot.
Yeah.
Like bait with a G, though. Yeah.
So, but I made it look like a do-rag.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you were not a fan, but I liked it.
Yeah, you were resourceful. It was cold out there. These been cold these last few games afterwards. I mean, Tallahassee,
you ain't lying.
It's fall. We get seasons up here. Bradley Moss 22 says, I am still in awe of Jermaine Johnson's performance. Absolute beast. Is he the best one-and-done player in Florida State University history? Possibly the best defensive end? I'm sure all FSU fans are thankful he chose to come here. He definitely will be remembered as an all-time great and hopefully has set the standard for guys to follow in his footsteps for years to come. Thanks, fellas. Let's go bowling, shall we? Why not us? Shreveport, here we come.
I don't know if I'm welcome back there. Walter Jones is the best one and done. I think he was really a two and done, and they just played him the one season. I think
he redshirted it, right? Didn't he?
Yeah, so that was their fault. They had him for 2 years. They only played him for one. Does Randy Moss count as a one and done?
Too soon.
A one and none? A none and done. He was here for a year but never played. Other than that, Jermaine Johnson, obviously that's not something that happens a lot. But I think you'd look at, like, in recent years, I think Menelik Watson might have been a one and done out of JUCO. Tank Carradine, maybe, although I think he was here 2 years. Jermaine Johnson, probably. I mean, it's a short list of competitors. But, this has been a pretty remarkable one season for that player. No, I would not say he's the best defensive end Florida State's ever had. But he's been very, very good. He's certainly been the best player they've had here. What would you say? The last 5 years, you throw Burns, Derwin, DeMarcus, and Jermaine Johnson. Are those your four?
Cam up in there anywhere?
I meant defense. I just meant defense.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Yeah, Asante's in there too, but I think Jermaine's been more impactful than Asante was. He's at a more impactful position. So yeah, man, he's been awesome. It's been really incredible. Makes you wonder how good those Georgia guys are.
I love Walter Jones's bio on Nole Fan, which I think is clipped from whatever they had on Seminoles. What was it? Seminoles.com back then. There was no .com, but began the spring drills at guard, but moved to tackle because of injuries and quickly learned the position. Picked it up pretty quickly.
Yeah, and kind of played it pretty well there for the next decade and a half or so.
6-time All-Pro, 9-time Pro Bowler, Pro Football Hall of Famer. So
9-time Pro Bowler. Yeah. The real question is who's the next one. I think I watched Jalen play on Monday night. That guy's just awesome. Yeah. He's just a great football player. If he stays healthy, he's definitely going to be wearing a yellow jacket.
Yes.
Anquan's going to be close. And I really hope Leroy Butler gets in eventually. He's been right there on the cusp. He's been a nominee here. Hopefully the guys that are around like 3 or 4 years in a row, maybe because they have the really bizarre way they vote, where it's dudes in a room talking about it and debating it. Hopefully, since his name has been on the ballot here for the last 3 years, they'll be more common. They'll be more familiar with everything he's done and say, all right, this is his year, because he deserves it too. He was the best. He was the best safety in the 90s.
Yeah.
He was the team of the 90s safety. He was the best safety. He was the best player at a position for an entire decade. That should be enough.
Man, I can't believe Warwick Dunn rushed for over 10,000 yards in his career. It's crazy.
Yeah,
he's under on that.
It's crazy. He's close, and he probably received for 4,000.
43-39.
Yeah, so almost 15,000 yards from scrimmage at his size. The problem is I don't think he made a lot of Pro Bowls. He was never the best at his position necessarily.
3, it looks like. Yeah, I mean, my whole thing for Pro Bowler or I'm sorry, Hall of Famer has for 5 years were you one of the 5 best players at your position, and I don't think there was a 5-year stretch where you were just Warwick Dunn, he's one of those guys.
He was right on the cusp, though.
Yeah.
He was really, and I know they don't think this, but I do think off the field stuff, if everything's close to even, should matter. With both Anquan and Warwick Dunn being men of the year, former NFL man of the years, that I think that should weigh into it some if you're really debating. So yeah, if Steve Atwater got in, Leroy Butler should get in. Not because Steve Atwater's a bad guy. I don't know if he is or isn't. But because Leroy Butler was a better player than Steve Atwater. But Steve Atwater had a great moment on NFL films hitting Christian Okoye, and now he's in the Hall of Fame, and Leroy Butler isn't. Leroy Butler even invented the Lambeau Leap.
Yeah.
It's just crazy that, Pat Summerall's in the Hall of Fame for contributions to football because he announced for 100 years. But Leroy Butler, who did it on the field at such a high level, isn't. And I know Summerall was a player, but I think he was a kicker and a not great offensive. I don't know.
Well, I think you should go into the College Football Hall of Fame ahead of people that have done stuff on the field for your contributions to the sport.
I think I should be in the Florida State Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
Absolutely.
Would you introduce me at my
really,
my
man?
Introduction?
That'd be awesome. Can I? As long I want to be the guy that pulls the sheet off the bust. Will you have the gator on your head?
Yes, of course. It'll be like Dion.
Candy for Noles. Saturday. Great day to be a Nole. Correction, Candy. Every day. Great day to be a Nole.
Well said.
It was also about the 3rd time that I've heard that Jordan Travis had a surprisingly great game. Can we just all agree that maybe he is actually progressing and getting better and consistently improving? We need to stop treating his good performances as one-offs. What will it take for that to become a consensus opinion? Thanks and go Noles. Close the season strong.
Yeah, that'll help. These last 2 games will be big. They are not incredible defenses, either one of these by any stretch. These last 3 defenses have been the best 3 he's faced since they've kind of turned the season around. Other than, Clemson counts. They're in there, right? But yeah, look, you're here. I'm certainly a believer, and I've been a believer. He's got to look like he did in the pocket a little bit more consistently. But Dillingham talking about what he does with reading the coverages, checking them in and out of plays, understanding the picture of what he's seeing. All that stuff matters, man. All that stuff is a big deal. And yeah, I think when you account for everything he can do, extending plays, getting first downs with his legs, scoring touchdowns with his legs, he is a good college player, good college quarterback.
It's very good, I think.
I wouldn't say very good yet, but you can see the potential there. You really can. He can't. I still think it'll. I want to see what he does. This week will be a great test. I'm sure Boston College will do what Clemson tried to do and just completely take away Florida State's running game. And your receivers aren't very good, but they can get open against Boston College if you give Jordan Travis enough time. And I want to see how he does that, what he looks like in the pocket a little bit more consistently. But yeah, I think he's good. I'm not surprised really by anything he does anymore. I think he's just, he's proven that he can play at this level and play well. He also has a new clothing line out.
Yeah. Check it out. JordanTravis13.com. I think you can pick it up.
And you can get 4th and 14 t-shirts.
Oh, he's got, really?
Yep,
Nice.
Yep, nice. Which is awesome. It really is. It's really incredible. Miami fans apparently on Twitter we're not taking kindly to that, but hey man, you'll get paid, Jordan Travis. So yeah, you can go get your 4th and 14 t-shirts.
Boston College has the 28th total defense in the country, allowing 335 yards a game. 97th rushing defense. Teams running for 176 on them. But third in the nation in passing yards allowed at 159.
Who have they have they just not played anybody that can throw?
I mean, they've played an ACC slate. I mean, they played an SEC game for their non-conference. But yeah, I mean, otherwise their non-conference has been pretty lousy. They played Colgate, UMass, Temple, and then Missouri.
And then so they played those non-conference teams that they're just terrible that can't throw. And then when you think about their ACC schedule, who would you say are the best quarterbacks in the conference?
Leary, Hartman, and Howell, probably, right?
And
Van
Pickett.
Dyke. And Pickett. Yeah, Pickett. Yeah. Sorry. God,
yeah, so he's played. Yeah. They played one of them, right? They played Leary.
Yeah, correct.
So they've gotten a break. Meanwhile, Florida State has to play all of them essentially, besides Pickett. But they've gotten a break where they haven't had to play. Not that Jordan Travis right now is Pickett through the air, but they've gotten a break where they haven't had to play teams that can really pass. So I know they're third in passing, and that's a great stat, but I still think they can be challenged a little bit.
Yeah.
And they look at that run defense. They're going to do everything they can to stop the run.
Right.
So that should open up at least a couple shot plays down the field if you can protect them.
I'm just excited to see a team go under center. I mean, BC runs so much of their offense under center. It's going to be cool.
Okay.
Just like 1996 out there. Just,
Well, in the press conference, you said 1992 AFC East.
Yeah.
And I want to be like, come on, man. Jim Kelly was under the shotgun the whole season, and so was Marino. Yeah.
But, hey, what about Browning Nagel? Browning Nagel was not a quarterback that played for the Jets.
Yeah, from Louisville, I think. Louisville great, Browning Nagel.
Yeah, and who knows? Who did the Patriots have before Drew Bledsoe? I don't even know.
Who could he? Tony Eason?
Yeah.
Is he still around? Steve Grogan?
Yeah, seriously.
Flutie? Maybe it was Flutie back then.
Yeah, shoot. Yeah, no, Jordan Travis is a quarterback. Yeah, he shouldn't be moved to receiver. He's not a quarterback, or he's not a running back playing quarterback. He's a quarterback. He's done it with his arm. I mean, most of what's stood out here this second part of the season is the way that he's thrown the ball. The way he threw actually, does North Carolina count as the second half of the season? I don't think so. But I mean, the high marks of this season: the North Carolina win, the Miami win.
Post-September.
Yeah, it was
post-September.
It was Jordan Travis throwing the ball. And again, man, Syracuse balled him up for most of the game. And I remember thinking during the Syracuse game, like, where is this suddenness that he would have? Like the elusiveness, just this ability to really just run by everybody in the defense. He had one or two runs before that final drive against Syracuse, but otherwise, they kind of kept him hemmed up. And you're like, well, man, if Syracuse can do this, this is not going to be a good thing. He's nowhere near as dynamic as he was last year, but he's better, though, because he's a better throwing quarterback, man. He just is.
Yeah, agreed.
Samurai_Nole, wake up, gents. Greetings from southern Japan. We are 12 hours or so ahead of you on the East Coast. We do not observe daylight savings time here.
Oh, nice.
So usually we're catching games fairly early Sunday morning. Okay, cool. Whatever.
So he was at 3:30 in the morning watching that. If he was watching it live, he probably didn't. I guess they have technology now where you can record something and watch it later.
I know, but you can't live sports. Like sports has to be watched live. I
don't think if you're in Japan though, it's not like anybody's going to spoil it for you.
I mean, I remember when the World Cup was in Korea back in 2000. I was in college. I was a young guy. We stayed up to watch World Cup games live. I wouldn't do it for the Olympics, but
it's because you're a nerd.
Whatever, Corey. Watching Miami bring out their turnover bling made me so thankful not to see us breaking out that embarrassing turnover backpack.
Right.
God, remember that thing? Remember that?
There are a lot of things you'd like to forget about that stretch there.
Though that got me thinking, with bamboo on the mind, what if we began presenting the Offensive Player of the Year with some kind of gilded bamboo spear as an award of some kind?
Like a weapon.
Well, maybe a dull tip on the spear.
Well, that's not a spear then. It's got to be sharpened. I like it. I like the idea. I like the idea of just bamboo in general. Yeah. But, you it's got to be in like a glass case or something.
Right.
and Dillingham has the key to it. Like, you can't be at a party one night and be like, hey, do y'all want to see my bamboo spear that I got for the 19 touchdowns I scored this year? And then something bad could happen. They're college kids.
Right.
So that would be my caution there. But yeah, I'm all for it, man. Get Bamboo involved in this program as long as Dillingham's here.
And like, doesn't Hamilton don't the basketball team, somebody gets to take a photo with a spear and they tweet it out? They don't.
I don't think they take it home with them.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Yeah, just it stays in Kenny's office.
Oh, okay, it stays in Kenny, but you get to take
a photo
sure.
with it. Yeah, they tweet it out. On to this week. I am cautiously optimistic that we're going to win out this year if we don't freeze in Boston College. He put quotations around freeze, double entendre, I think. However, if we do win out, how cool will it be to claim state champions? I never heard of that until I think Kevin Steele came here and he mentioned it. Like, our goals are the same at Florida State every year. It's to, win the ACC, win the state title, and then compete for that. And I'm like, the state title, what? But no, yeah, man, state champs. It's a real thing. I mean, there's not a trophy or anything, but it's a designation. It's a distinction we can claim. Incredible. How cool? Cool is an understatement. Again, we were 0-4. Florida just pushed Alabama to the brink. Miami had found gold at their quarterback position, and here we are. It's incredible. It's amazing.
It really is. It really is. It's cool that we get to where this season could have gone, and how ugly it was looking there for a while. Yeah, man, I'm thankful that it turned around to the point where we can entertain the thought of maybe getting to 6 wins and getting to a bowl game, and not be laughed out of the room. Like, it's a realistic possibility. So yeah, man, that's cool. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, why don't we, hey, DeSantis, get on it. Isn't there, the Commander's Cup, I think, between, Air Force and Navy?
The problem is
Army?
Florida and Miami don't play each other.
Well,
so how can you claim it's a state championship?
Well, it'll just be between us then, really.
And that's what I'm saying. Even if Florida State loses to Florida, well, Florida didn't win the state championship.
Right.
Because they didn't play Miami.
Well, there's no winner this year then.
I still think Florida State wins. Well, no. So Florida State and Florida would tie because they both had 1 win. Yeah. That's how I would do it. But yeah, there's no winner basically because the other schools can't ever win the state championship because they're too much of they're too big of babies to play each other. Yeah. By the way, that was much more of a Florida thing back in the day. Florida in the mid '80s, they played Miami a lot, maybe every year back when Miami was terrible. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, what is this now? What are we doing here now? This isn't like the mid '80s. They're like, oh, this isn't fun at all. What happened to the Miami we grew up with that we beat the bejesus out? Oh, no, we're not doing this anymore.
Cowards.
Let's stop playing Miami.
Cowards.
So they played them maybe, what would you say, 5 times in the last 30 years, 25 years?
Yeah.
And a couple of times might have been in bowls, or one might have been in a bowl. So, yeah, it's Florida State's the only one that has the cojones to play both of them.
He does say hashtag feed the panda, hashtag drink the Luna. So don't want to leave that out. Thank you, Sam.
There you go. Nice.
From Japan to Hawaii, let's keep it on the Pacific coast. Not Pacific Coast, but just Pacific Ocean.
Right.
To be specific. I remember when I was a kid, I watched Family Feud, and they would do the speed round stuff, and it was you'd say an answer. Be more specific. I'm like, I thought it was Pacific for the longest time. But I was 8, 9 years old, so chill out, everybody.
Yeah, that's fine.
Chill out, everybody. It's Ralph. He's in Hawaii. He says, aloha, guys. How's it? Taking into consideration the roster flipping that the portal offers, time to weed out bad characters, getting your players on board with your scheme to the point that natural instinct and instant reactions become second nature, and having your strength and conditioning program demonstrate its effectiveness, all that said, how long should a reasonable fan base give a coach before deciding we need to pull the plug because they do not feel it is working out? Maybe we should ask Virginia Tech fans that. I ask this, Ralph says, because our defense of late has seemed to have really finally turned the corner on growth, but if many of our fan base had gotten their way, we would have fired Adam Fuller earlier this year, thus starting the cycle of misery all over yet again. Okay. All right. Yeah. I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
I would say I think DCs are different than firing the head coach. I look, man, I think Adam Fuller has probably done enough here. And like I talked about the stability and everything, and you like it and you want to keep it. If things go sideways the last 2 weeks, it might not be an absolute slam dunk that everybody is secure. But you would think what you've seen and the improvement that's been made, that will be appreciated. But yeah, man, it's funny that was kind of a topic on Twitter yesterday because I don't remember who wrote. Which publication wrote the story about all the buyouts of the last 10 or 15 years in college football, but literally it's been over $1 billion paid out to coaches to not coach. And the thought being like they're always looking for something better, and so many times you don't find it.
Yeah.
So like Miami, every 4 years they're doing this. Literally, that has been a Miami fan's life since Larry Coker's third year. Man, Coker's terrible. We got to get somebody to replace him. He's tearing down the program. Then Shannon's terrible. Then Golden is terrible. Then Richt is terrible. Now Manny's terrible. Maybe it's maybe part. Well, right. I think in that instance it's just Miami, but you can't win there. But man, it rarely does you well to keep turning over coaches every 2, 3, 4 years. It just, the counter to that is, well, man, if he's not the right guy, you can't just sit idly by and let 7 wins be the standard for a decade. But, I don't know. I'm not even answering the question. I think reasonable fans at a place like Florida State is different than a place like Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech's won, a couple ACC titles, 0 national championships. Florida State, I think, 4 years, I think that's reasonable. I think by 4 years, you should be not just, looking at FIMRAL to see if you're any good and you're making improvements, but actually looking at records, NFL drafts, bowl games. That's when the proof should be in that kind of pudding, not just in FIMRAL's efficiency ratings. By the way, so I just looked it up, Aslan. So right now, according to our man Brian FIMRAL, and our listener sent us a graph. Did you see that?
No. I see.
Yeah, about Adam Fuller in visual form, like how much better the defense has gotten this year. It's spiked up pretty good according to the national ranks, the efficiency ratings. But Florida State right now is 45th overall in the national efficiency ratings at FIMRAL. Last year they were 103rd.
Right.
So they've gone from 103 to 45. So again,
it's a climb.
That's kind of So I mean that's a pretty significant jump. So you've got to like what you're seeing, even if the record isn't as. But again, 2 years from now, if I'm bringing out FIMRAL to talk about how, hey man, I know they're 2-5, but look how close they are to being in the top 20. Just go ahead and turn off the podcast. Don't listen to me anymore. I can't do it anymore. I can't. But I do think right now when you're building, especially year 1.5, that it's okay to look at some other measures to see real improvement. But I think by year 4, at a place like Florida State, a realistic fan base can expect some real results by year 4.
There's no one-size-fits-all thing.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Well said. Yeah.
Because, was firing Willie reasonable? Like, a reasonable fan base? Was that reasonable? Was it unreasonable? I can't say it was reasonable. I don't think it was unreasonable with all the sort of, data that we had and some of the stuff that was, percolating behind the scenes, if you will. But I think with a coordinator, you probably have a good feel after 2 seasons. I don't know how many coordinators really would get a third. I don't know, let's say if Syracuse, if that defensive effort was kind of par for the course for this team this year, I don't think Fuller comes back for 2022. I think you would have had, these games would have been enough for you to figure out, all right, they just can't hear him because you flip the roster on the defense you didn't flip it, but there's been definitely the holes that you had on this defense were addressed quite nicely. So if you couldn't get things figured out with that influx of talent on every level other than linebacker, I mean, Jamie Robinson back there helping you out, your Kier and Jermaine, what they've done, I think 2 years kind of gives you a good idea on a coordinator. But a head coach, I'd say 3, but 4's probably more of a reasonable answer. But But I think 3. I mean, go back and look at Justin Fuente. They knew after 18, hey man, it's not going to be much better than this. But they kept riding with him. They hoped.
Yeah, again though, I think with all this, what plays a vital role, and we
Clay
all know this.
Clay Helton in Southern Cal. I don't know how that guy just kept finding new lives, but he
Georgia
did.
Southern's new coach,
That's
Clay
right.
Helton. Man, recruiting helps so much, and I've said this before. I've said it a lot actually. But if Willie Taggart had the class coming in for 2020 that Norvell has for 2022, Willie Taggart would not have been fired after the Miami game. The cavalry was not coming.
Yeah.
The recruiting, that's the lifeblood of any program, and that's something you thought was going to be a real strength, had turned into an obvious weakness. And the roster was getting worse. He was not replenishing it. He had gone 2 years without a quarterback. All these signs made that it could, from the outside, look unreasonable. And maybe it was. I don't know. But there's no way that you would have fired him if he had a top 10, top 8-ish recruiting class coming in with more fish out there that he could possibly get. So that to me is, when we're looking at, say Norvell, you could say, yeah, by year 3, this should be happening. Okay, what if year 3 he goes 7-5, but he's got the number 2 class in the country? Probably going to hang with him, right? Right?
Yeah.
You're not giving up. You're not giving up the talent. You have to bring in talent.
They won't. No, because there's too many people invested in him.
Yes.
Giving
well,
him
they
as
couldn't
much
do
time
it
as
anyway.
possible.
Yeah.
No,
even
no,
if I don't think they would do it. Could do it anyway. I think they believe in him. But also, what you're doing on the recruiting trail matters a lot, man. I brought this up too. People wanted Leonard fired after the 4th straight year they didn't make the tournament back in 15 or whatever it was.
And that wouldn't have been unreasonable. He
had John Isaac on the hook.
Right.
And you don't get John Isaac if you fire Leonard Hamilton. And then none of the last 6 years have happened. None of the last 5 years happened.
Very true.
That stuff matters. It can't just be wins and losses. It's the talent you're bringing into the program. And if he keeps recruiting near this level or above it, you hope, it would be hard. It would be hard to fire him in 3 or 4 years. At least 3 years.
In
for
3
sure.
years, yes.
Yeah. But why are we even talking about that? The only thing we got to worry about with Mike Norvell is if an NFL team comes calling.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
Ralph also adds, side note, World War I is where we Marines got our nickname Devil Dogs, because we were talking about World War I, and we don't talk about World War I a lot, so thanks, Ralph. During a battle, the Germans used mustard gas, causing the Marines to don their protective mask. When the Marines charged the German positions with their fierce fighting skill that you have come to know and love about us, the Germans called them Teufelhüden, translated the hounds from hell, thus
nice.
Devil Dogs. As always, mahalo for all you do to keep us informed. Go Warchant. Oorah. I like that. Thanks,
Ralph.
Ralph.
That's a good story. Ralph, you should give us stories like that all the time, man. That's
Every week.
That's interesting stuff.
Every week, give us a World War I tidbit. And then maybe after, maybe every month, pick out a certain war. And then give us a tidbit from said war.
Okay.
Let's make everybody a little bit better. Old Dad's a Nole. Wake up! What a great win for this program. When Miami got the tip ball for the touchdown, I had immediate flashbacks of being up 19-3 and Steve Walsh hitting Michael Irvin for a game-changing score. Here it goes again, so to speak. But the team held on. We say this all the time, but yet again, it is how this team responds to a game like that is so very important. I love when you guys do rapid fire, so I would like to ask 5 quick answer questions.
Oh, boy. Okay. No more than 10 words out of me.
Okay, here we go. First coach to be fired, Manny Diaz or Scott Frost? Manny
Diaz.
Yeah. This team reaches a bowl game? No.
Do we know this doesn't count as my answer? Because I'm already at 10. We're already at 10
Rapid fire.
answer.
Come on, yes or no?
Do we know that 5 and 7 is that a possibility?
Yes,
to get in
5 they could. I think they have good enough APR to where they could squeeze in there if somebody doesn't.
Then I'm going to say yes. I think they win one of the next 2, and they're gonna do their best to get to a bowl.
Okay. Worst loss: FSU versus Jacksonville State or Texas versus Kansas?
FSU.
Correct.
It's close though. It is, man. That was Kansas's first road conference win since 2008.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
Why don't they just bring Mark Mangini? Well, actually, maybe this Lance Leopold guy knows Kansas.
Yeah, man.
Just crazy. How has that guy not found a job doing anything football-wise? Crazy. Most important win for this program, last week or the 1989 win? I mean, 89?
I mean, we'll ask us that again in a few years. I don't know if you're trying to get us to project. I would say 89 was bigger. Number one, if you lose the game in 89, that's a third loss, so you don't have your 10-win streak. You don't have your top 4 streak. The dynasty, I mean, that's still, it's a 9-3 team. No, I would say 89. That was a big win.
My favorite one, he says, who has played the better schedule, Georgia or Cincinnati? Georgia, right? I mean, Notre Dame. Really,
no, they haven't played Notre Dame.
I'm saying Cincinnati. That's the only real big fish.
Yeah, but who's Georgia beaten? Auburn? Is that their best win?
Auburn, Tennessee, those are tough games. I mean, overall, that's more grueling than playing Tulsa and Temple in 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think it's. But the SEC East is not great. Clearly, I mean, look, man, Georgia's doing to the SEC East what Florida State did the ACC forever, and it was like, oh, the ACC must suck. But when Georgia does it, it's like, oh, these are grueling wins, man. It's tough to win at Tennessee. Well, not really. Stetson Bennett's out there looking like Dandy Dan Marino, just throwing dimes all over the place, making him look like a Heisman contender. But yeah, probably I would say talent for talent. Obviously, the schedule Georgia has played has been tougher, and also Clemson then isn't maybe Clemson now. Like, you had no idea, you had no way of knowing that Clemson was going to be that bad on offense. And that was a really hard-fought game. But,
I mean, Cincinnati's played Miami of Ohio, Murray State, Indiana, Notre Dame, Temple, UCF, Navy, Tulane, Tulsa, which they almost lost to, and South Florida.
There you go. Hey, man, it's a murderer's row.
Well, hey, man, Georgia beat Arkansas. That was ranked. Georgia's beating Kentucky, which I don't.
Yeah, Kentucky's all right. Well, look, it's clear. I think he was asking it as a tongue-in-cheek question.
Okay.
But I tell you this.
I'd put Cincinnati in my top 4, though. I'd put them in my
absolutely,
top 4.
I would. Yeah. And they played last year in that bowl game, and Georgia had to kick like a 55-yard field goal at the Horn to win that game in the Georgia Dome. Or not the Georgia Dome, whatever we call it now, Mercedes-Benz. Like, they had a home game, basically. That Cincinnati team can play, man. Yeah. They're good.
That coach is going to be pursued by everybody. So
wouldn't you say they have the best win of anybody in the country?
Yes, the Notre Dame game, Notre Dame victory for them. I mean, that was in South Bend. Yeah, that's legit.
I know.
That's a legit win. It's Dave in Bardstown, Kentucky. Bourbon is your friend. Much like Gandalf the Grey returning to Middle-earth as Gandalf the White, I return to Renegade Express no longer a plebeian, but as a Seminole booster.
Oh,
all right.
Okay, nice.
Awesome, man. Congrats,
there
man.
You go.
Way to go, man. Support the team. Be the team behind the team. I think we can do better than Sean Gone for a running back moniker. Come on, man. I can't even. May I offer Trajason or J. Trayshawn? Whichever Sean gets more yards gets to have their syllable at the front of the name.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, sure. Hey, we're looking for all kinds of ideas, guys. Don't leave it up to Aslan and I, because we don't come up with great stuff.
No.
We got the Panda Express,
Jingo,
and then we got J. Trayshawn or Trey Jayshawn, depending on who plays better. Yeah, hey, I'm all for it, man. We'll run it by them and see what they think.
Wasn't Rick's the Sam called the Swamp Fling? I've never heard it called that. Yeah, I've never heard it called that. It was just, Rick's the Sam. That's all it was. Aslan, thank you for reading the second question on Trench Talk. I almost had to take a mental health day, but I'm good now. Yeah, Dave doesn't like when I ask his irreverent branded questions on if I omit them. He wanted me, second part of his question to Devontae was something about if Dylan were to fall asleep on the flight to Boston College, would you put Christmas ornaments on his beard?
I mean, the answer to that is no. So you didn't ask that, is what
no,
you're saying.
I did. I'm like, let me go back and ask this. I'm like, our guy Dave will not be happy if I.
What did he say? Absolutely, or probably
he's
just
a guy. He's a guy that big with that size of beard. I'm not messing with. He said something like that. So, By
I
the
wonder
way,
how long it would take him to notice.
Yeah. By the way, I did say Boston College. I want to get in the habit of calling these universities like the university name in it, Corey. I want to start this like grassroots thing to try to bring the amateurism back in college football.
Okay.
Say like Texas, like the University of Texas lost to Kansas University.
Okay.
I know it's a lot, but it just makes me feel like we're still talking about kids playing a game. XDQ004. It's our guy Derek. He's an Omega. Wake up! Great win for the good guys Saturday. Not sure if Jermaine Johnson drinks, but he will not have to buy another drink or meal in Tallahassee again. All-time performance. You think so? Like, that's Kermit. I mean, I would say like Kermit ain't got to worry about it. Kelvin ain't got to worry about it.
Kermit? I mean, that was a huge play, but come on, man. If Kermit and Jermaine walk into a bar, you're going to buy a drink for Kermit?
Yeah.
But not Jermaine? Can't it be both?
I mean, they both get it, but I mean, I don't know. I think Kermit.
If you only had $10 to buy one drink, you're going to buy it for Kermit.
Yeah, that's like what's the cool thing. He's only got one real big play, and it was that play in that moment, man.
Sure.
Like, it was amazing. It was incredible.
Why not? What if you see Jeremy Kerr walk in? Like one catch for 1 yard, touchdown, Florida.
Oh man,
Buy him a drink. It was an all-time game. I mean, it was. We did talk about that on headlines. Like, what's cool about Jermaine Johnson is that I think he is going to go down as a really high fan favorite for Florida State fans. Like 10 years from now, 15 years from now, they're going to remember this season from him and just what a great player he was, how hard he played. In that game, he has his signature game now, which is great. He also had a signature moment against Clemson that kind of got, maybe erased a little because of the way that thing ended because, Clemson got their signature play on their defensive touchdown. That great play there at the end of the game. But what he did, like leaving the number one team in the country and then playing as hard as he played for not a good team and giving everything he had to not a good team. In a team he had not been here for very long. It wasn't like these were his guys he went on recruiting trips with. So I just think Florida State fans, especially 3 years from now, if this thing's turned around and this is a 9 or 10 win team, people will look back at this season and largely look back at that guy as one of the main reasons why. And I think the more we get away from the season, the more beloved he might end up being if this thing turns out the way we hope.
I agree with that. And then on top of it, I would say how he performs in the NFL will probably also affect it too. It's not a Florida State thing. It's just every college fan base. I just feel like if a guy has had a great career in college and then like a so-so in the NFL, it's like, And if he has a so-so career but then somehow goes crazy in the NFL, it's like, man, he was really good. Like it's a different lens you kind of look at the guy. Like DeMarcus Walker right now, like Rashad Green, those guys. I think if Jermaine Johnson ends up having an all-pro type of career, I bet people will be like, you know what? Actually, Jermaine Johnson, if you think about it, the 21 season was better than DeMarcus' 16 season.
Well, maybe, but I would think either way, this has been a pretty darn special season
absolutely.
for that guy.
There's no way we expect. I mean,
yeah.
I don't even think in my wildest dreams, I don't think it. We had high hopes, high expectations for him. He was number 2, I think, on most of our top 40s. I think Gene might have put him number 1. Or maybe Jeff did. Somebody, I think one of us put him, it wasn't me, put him number 1 on their preseason top 40. But still, again, man, I've already forgot about what he did against Clemson, and he almost won that game for Florida State. It's crazy the amount of production that he's provided this team. I hope they can figure out a way to make up for it next year. We'll worry about that next year.
There are other defensive ends out there they can go find. Probably not to him. You got to replace him in the aggregate. Yeah. Go find 4 defensive ends that put up the numbers that he did.
Yeah. Looking forward to seeing a great effort against Boston College this weekend. He put BC, but I'm going to say Boston College. I expect J-Trav to do J-Trav things at Chestnut Hill is where we first learned about his wheels back in 2019. 35-24 Noles. By the way, if somebody wants to give us a cool Jordan Travestic name, I'm in the market for that. Let us know.
Yeah, or buy us T-shirts. Buy us his T-shirts. I'll take a 4th and 14 shirt. speaking of that, there will be a column. I don't know if it'll be up when you're hearing this. It should be, but if not, shortly thereafter, I wrote about Jordan Travis in that game, like that moment in Boston College. He talked a lot on Tuesday when he was interviewed about just thanking Bryles and Odell for giving him that shot, because he thought, rightly so, he thought, am I even a football player before that game? Like, what is my future in this sport? Because he hadn't played, even on a team that had Blackman and Hornibrook. He couldn't find the field at all. He didn't play in 18 at all. And he'd had a rough time at Louisville. Like, there was reason to wonder for him, am I ever going to make an impact? Am I ever going to be a difference maker? In that game, it was all runs, but that game, it's like, where did this come from? And he had 3 carries and 2 of them were for touchdowns. And after that, it's like that gave him confidence, and it kind of put him in the running to maybe be a quarterback one day, which he now is.
Why read the column when you can just listen to the podcast, everybody?
That's not how we sell it, Aslan.
I mean, you
subscribe
just gave
to
everything
Warchant.
away. You could have just been like, he had some really, profound words to talk about how important that Boston College game was to him. And
Buddy, but it's my words that you want to read.
Okay.
And trust me, that wasn't articulate at all. When I get a chance on the keyboard, are you kidding me? The flames start coming out of the fingertips.
Question this week, Derek says, what do you attribute to the success of our defense over these last 6.5 games? During this streak, we have given up 30 points to only Syracuse. Adam Fuller has to get credit for some of it, but I think the consistency of the lineup has helped. We are not there yet, but you can see the improvements. Support the sponsors and go Noles. Man, we'd have our own coaching consulting firm and be making lots of money if we knew why and who gets the credit. That front four has been pretty darn stout this whole time.
Yeah, it's been the best thing about the team, and it's been one of the best units in the country. Really, it's been a long time since you could say that, right, about any Florida State position group. Yeah. But the front four has been one of the better front fours in the country.
I mean, is it better communication? Is it better teaching that's allowed these guys to communicate better on the back end? Because
look, man, I'm not trying to hammer kids, but Brendan Gant doesn't play much anymore. Renardo Green hasn't played much for reasons here or there. Travis Jay hasn't played much. It has been whittled down to 5 dudes, essentially.
But Travis Jay was always, somebody said it, right? Like, he was always in phase. Like, he wasn't getting just blown by. That touchdown against
there might have been.
That was a tough. It was good coverage.
Well, come on, man. That was.
Was
crazy,
it not good coverage?
No, it was great coverage, but at some point you got to go compete and try to make a play. Like, that's a guy that can jump. We've seen his basketball highlights. My man can jump and hit the top of the window almost. Yeah. And in that play, he got 4 inches off the ground. Like, you got to, again, I'm speaking as an elite athlete myself.
Right.
Understand that. Like, when I jump, I'm jumping 40 inches at least. But, so yeah, that's pretty ridiculous of me making a comment like that. Granted, I hear it. Everybody, I hear it. I would have to jump 3 times to get to 40 inches. But still, like, when you're that kind of athlete, play like you're an athlete. Like, play, like, when those Hail Marys, not the one against Jacksonville State, but the other ones that he got interceptions on, he's out-leaping everyone. There's 5 guys there, and it's his hands that touch it first. He goes up and snatches it. But in that play, it was like he just was stuck to the ground. That was the problem I had with it. And more than anything, it's not a shot at him necessarily. It's just, all really good defenses, they don't do a whole lot of subbing in the back end. Yeah. Like, Georgia never subs their safeties. Hardly ever. Now, they'll run in cornerbacks every now and again, but those safeties it's usually the same 2 dudes. And the move that was made that really seems to have settled down this defense and made it competent was Jamie Robinson at safety.
And then Noles
and Kevin Noles at nickel. Yeah. That has been the difference maker. And it's been basically those 5 guys. Now, Cooper is now one of your corners, and you can rotate in corners some, but I just think the communication is better when you know who the guys are back there. Like, Akeem Dent has not made all the great plays in the world, but he's been back there a lot now. And Jamie Robinson and him can communicate, and they've done a much better job of just not letting things just run wide open in the middle of the field. I do think that matters, playing the same 5 or 6 guys, having the consistency back there.
And again, not to hammer on kids, I wonder if this means that they could be even better, because I think they really do like Sidney Williams, but Sidney Williams hasn't been out there. in the second half of the season, and he was out there and against Jacksonville State. He might have been, he was in position, I think, to maybe help clean up against the last play of the game as well too. So
he was, and you wonder, like, going into next year, like Jamie Robinson comes back, Akeem Dent he's definitely still eligible to come back. Can't imagine either one of those guys are going pro. And then I'm really curious about Shaheem Brown. And for that part, Sidney Williams. Like, I think those guys can play, and that it's just, you got to figure out who your guys are. And I think early in the season they were giving guys reps. Like, okay, he's earned it. He's second string, yeah, but he's earned 15 or 20 reps a game. And they're not really doing that right now. Like Bernardo Green, Brendan Gant, they don't get on the field at all.
Nope.
And they were getting on the field before, like kind of subbing in. They were more liberal with their rotations and their subs. They were kind of treating it like Leonard treats his basketball team, but they're not doing that now. They're basically riding with those same five guys.
All right, we'll squeeze this one and then it's a wrap. We'll do a live show 6:00 tonight, and there'll be updates well before that on the site from practice, as well as the Jeff Cameron show, 1 to 3 p.m. on YouTube and 93.3 FM in Tallahassee.
And there's after our
hoops
live show, I think there's a basketball game.
There is. Jimbo Jangles, author of Panda Express Backfield. What's up, fellas? Right. After heartfelt and inspiring answers from Norvell a few weeks ago and Dillingham the other day, I think we see some of the magic behind their 2022 recruiting efforts. Hard for anyone not to want to play for coaches that are so genuine and connected with their players. The culture, family atmosphere, and belief they have built with this team that's below 500 is pretty impressive. With less than a month to go before early signing period, it would be great if Corey, a.k.a. Oprah Clark, could ask some more questions to elicit responses to secure a few more guys. Thanks in advance. Go Noles.
Yeah, I don't get the feeling that Papuchis and Fuller are going to give us that kind of stuff, right? Maybe there's no way Fuller would get emotional. Papuchis maybe.
He was getting lathered up talking about Jermaine Johnson.
You're right.
If they beat Florida, if we can maybe accost him like in a hallway, hey man, he just made you guys bowl eligible, and he's got 3 sacks and another scoop and score touchdown, and you're going to be able to stay here.
And then he's like Terrell Owens. That's my defensive end.
That's my defensive end. Yeah. Like, you're not going to have to go back to purgatory and be a position coach in the Big Ten. You're staying in Florida, man. How's that feel? Yeah, man.
Yeah, no lie. We give him a lot of grief. Mainly people think of Papuchis, and the reason we talked to him is because he's the coordinator of the special teams. But, yeah, his defensive ends have been pretty darn good this year. That's a good notch in his belt. I know he only got him for a year, but that's a good selling point. Yeah, the Dillingham thing really was I promise I wasn't trying to make the guy sob and break down again. I really did want him to answer the question, explain more why he was so emotional about seeing those kids do that, and he just basically said they're special kids, man. But yeah, like I said yesterday, you sitting that out, man. Like, that does mean something. I promise you it does. The Norvell thing, Tom Lang used it in the. Did you listen to that? The montage he did.
I still have it. No, I got to go and listen to the podcast. Right, it's not on the Facebook or the YouTube rather.
Correct. It's right. You have to listen to the first. It's like 4 minutes. He does November Rain, which anytime you're using November Rain, it's right. Good with me. But it's like 5 minutes, 4.5 minutes. But it's really good because he incorporates that speech that Norvell had. Not a speech, whatever you want to call it. His answer to my thought provoking question. Yeah. Is in there, and when you hear it in that context after beating Miami and everything else, it's pretty cool, man. It's really well done by Tom. But yeah, I have to imagine that clip was sent out to everybody they're recruiting, and I'd have to imagine whether they use it callously or like I would cynically and send it out to recruits. Don't you think like DLT and Brady Scott and Jordan Travis and all those guys, Pokey, Jashawn Corbin, when they see Dillingham acting like that, that's got to mean something to them.
No, we played it for Devontae on his show, and he was like, man, he's like, yeah, he's like, he understands. He sees how hard we work, and it makes him really happy to see us be happy. Yeah, I mean, it's,
because, he's not like a hard ass like Jimbo Fisher, He's not that personality, but he's a coach, and coaches get on their players. And so I'm sure there's been some things he said that probably weren't the nicest things in the world to all those guys. But then when they see that, I think that matters, man. I mean, imagine how great Tony Romo felt seeing T.O. break down like that. Right? That sounds like I'm mocking Dillingham. I'm not really mocking him because I do think it matters, man. I think that's that connection with players, the players feeling like you care. I think can be a really, really big deal.
I never got that. I thought it was T.O. actually being sincere. Maybe my sociopath radar might be broken.
No, I think he was being sincere.
But everyone made fun of him about it. Which was screwed up. It's like, man, you guys say how selfish he is and how big of a prima donna and jerk he is, and like here he is just absolutely bearing his soul to everybody after like a really difficult loss. And like, I mean, I was because I'm a Niners guy a little bit, and I had fond memories of his time in San Francisco. So
yeah, it's hard to know with T.O. though.
It is.
It's hard to know like where he was in his headspace. Maybe it was something else that was really maybe he had his own thing going on, and it just happened to be about his. I mean, because it wasn't like they were saying, "Do you think Tony Romo should be executed?" They were just asking about his play, and do you think he's playing well, or whatever the context was. So yeah, but either way, Dillingham, man, that was cool to see. It's cool to see that. That's why you really root for these guys. Like I root for these coaches to do well, and I root for these, because I do think they are. I don't know. I'm done talking.
Yeah, I mean, I think last thing just on the way out. The one that I've always been kind of concerned about, I just didn't know how Mike Norvell would play to a 5-star kid that's being pursued by top 5 playoff bound every single year coach. I'm just like, there's just no way that's going to win over hearts and minds. But I mean, here they sit with a class in the top 15, and they've got Travis Hunter, who is the prize jewel of anybody's recruiting class, and they've got 5 stars that are coming to visit constantly. Again, in the midst of a really bad season, coming off the heels of maybe the worst season, the worst season in Florida State modern football history. So I guess it just makes me feel old, really old, because I'm like, I know kids these days, they're not gonna be into this dude, and they are, man. So good for us. Let's start winning some football games, going to really cool bowl games. But I'll take Shreveport, even if Corey can't go. Maybe it should be like Bobby Valentine. Maybe we'll just give you like some glasses and a mustache, and you can just blend in.
There you go. I'll wear a mullet. I'll wear a fake mullet or something. There you go. I'd fit right in if I was wearing one of those.
Hey, come on. We're trying to work on the PR for you, man.
Sorry, my fault. Strike that.
Don't forget, live show again, 6 p.m., 1 to 3 o'clock. Before then will be the Jeff Cameron Show on 93.3 FM and live here on YouTube. And then before that, probably around noon or so, check out warchant.com. We'll have interviews and updates from Wednesday's practice as Florida State prepares for Boston College. That's Saturday noon, ACC Network. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee. Come explore our world of coffee. DeLuna Coffee features over 24 different blends. DeLuna's unique roasts can be delivered ground finely for drip coffee makers, coarse for the craft crowd, untouched as a whole bean, or even in convenient K-Cups. Founded in 2014 by the Lemmix family, Ed and Brett are FSU alums and boosters who are extending a special offer to all listeners. Use the promo code WARCHANT15 for a 15% discount. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com and check out their Facebook and Instagram.